You know that feeling, right? When one little comment, one email, or some person in traffic just completely hijacks your entire day? Well, what if I told you that you could actually master that feeling? Today, we're going to dive into the science of how to do just that. And it all starts with a simple, almost unbelievable fact about your own emotions. So let me just ask you this. What if that raw biochemical feeling of anger, the one that can derail your whole afternoon, what if it actually has a natural lifespan of less than 2 minutes? I know, it sounds totally impossible, but you gotta stick with me on this. 90 seconds. That is the number. According to brain scientists, that's literally all the time it takes for the chemical cocktail of an emotion to surge through your bloodstream and then get completely flushed out. So here's the big question. If the feeling itself is gone in 90 seconds, what on earth are we doing for the other 20 minutes or maybe even 2 hours that we stay mad? And that brings us to this amazing idea, the 90-second rule. See, that initial flood of stress hormones, that's totally automatic. You can't control it. But, and this is the important part, anything you feel beyond that 90-second mark is not the original emotion. It's us. We are choosing, whether we know it or not, to keep re-stimulating that emotional circuit just by replaying the story over and over in our heads. I love this analogy because it illustrates the point so perfectly. The first wave of anger is just the smoke alarm. It's an alert, that's it. But when we start thinking about our comeback and replaying the argument and going on and on about what a jerk that person is, well, we are actively choosing to burn more toast, and that keeps the alarm screaming. All right, so that raises a really important question. If we're the ones burning more toast, why do we get so easily triggered in the first place? Let's take a look at this idea that other people have some kind of remote control for our feelings and see how we can take that remote back. We all say it, right? They just know how to push my buttons. But this slide, this reframes absolutely everything. The myth is that other people push our buttons. The truth? They simply reveal them. Those buttons, they're our own unhealed wounds or our most deeply held values, just sitting there waiting for someone to accidentally point them out. And what's so powerful about this is how it changes the whole experience. Suddenly, a trigger stops being some kind of personal attack and instead becomes a signpost, like a map pointing directly to the parts of us that need our own attention and care. The person who triggered you isn't your enemy. They're accidentally your guide. And here's another huge insight. Anger is very rarely the real emotion. Seriously. A better way to think about it is like a tough-looking security guard that rushes onto the scene to protect something much more fragile and vulnerable hiding underneath. So what's that security guard protecting? Well, it's usually one of these three: hurt, fear, or shame. I mean, think about it. When your partner forgets your anniversary, that flash of anger is really just a cover for the hurt of feeling forgotten. We reach for anger because, it feels powerful, while feeling vulnerable feels really risky. But the real healing, that only happens when we get past the guard and deal with the actual feeling underneath. Okay, so if we're not just helpless victims of our triggers, how do we actually change our reactions in the moment? Well, the secret lies in discovering this tiny, incredibly powerful moment that honestly most of us don't even know exists. Let's break it down. So it all starts here, with the trigger. This is the external thing, that passive-aggressive email, the car that cuts you off, the sarcastic comment from a coworker. This part, it's totally outside of your control. It just happens. And then, right after the trigger, there is this, a space, a pause. Now, it might only be a microsecond long, but trust me, it is there. This is what we call the choice point. And this tiny little gap between what happens and how you react, that is where all of your power and freedom lives. Because what happens next is not determined by the trigger at all. Nope. It's determined by what you do in that space. You can go down that old, worn-out path of an automatic reaction, or you can consciously choose a new path, a deliberate response. This idea, which was so beautifully articulated by the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, is honestly one of the most empowering concepts in all of psychology. Even when absolutely everything was taken from him, he realized that no one could take away his freedom to choose his response. That space, that's your superpower. Okay, so finding that space is one thing, but what do you actually do when you're in it? Let's move on and stock your emotional toolkit with some really practical, easy-to-use techniques that will help you choose your response wisely. The first tool is all about activating your observer self. So instead of being inside the storm, you become the meteorologist watching it on a screen. First, you just notice the physical feelings. Your heart starts racing, your face gets hot. Then you mentally take a step back and just observe. Next, you actually narrate it to yourself. Ah, interesting. I am noticing anger arising. From that distance, from that little bit of space, you can now consciously choose what to do next. It's a simple process that creates immediate distance. This slide just shows the huge difference. On the left, you're fused with the emotion. I am angry. It totally defines you in that moment. But on the right, you are separate from it. You are the calm, conscious sky, watching the storm cloud of anger just pass by. This small shift in your internal language changes absolutely everything. Here is another incredibly powerful tool, the reframe. So, what if that micromanaging boss isn't actually an obstacle, but is more like a personal trainer, helping you develop the muscle of patience? What if that passive-aggressive relative is giving you a free workout in setting healthy boundaries? All of a sudden, they're not tormentors anymore, they're your trainers. And speaking of boundaries, this is what a healthy one sounds like. See, they aren't aggressive walls. They're just clear, calm statements about what you need to protect your own peace. It's not about controlling the other person. It's about managing your own energy so you can actually have a respectful conversation. So let's bring all this together. The central theme here is this. This is not about suppressing anger or pretending you don't have feelings. Not at all. It's about moving from an automatic reaction to an intentional response. It's about becoming the author of your own experience, not just a character who gets pushed around in it. And here is the final crucial piece of the puzzle. The feeling you have isn't actually caused by the event itself, it's caused by the story you tell yourself about the event. I mean, think about it. Your boss sends a one-word email that just says, fine. Now, the story could be, oh my gosh, I've failed, they hate my work, and that leads to anxiety. Or the story could be, well, they must be really busy, which leads to, well, nothing. Same event, totally different story, completely different emotional reality. But listen, knowledge without practice is just entertainment, right? So here is your challenge. For 1 week, just 1 week, don't try to do everything. Just pick one of these tools. That's it. Maybe you just focus on letting that 90 seconds pass without adding a story. Or maybe you just practice saying to yourself, I notice anger. Small, consistent practice is what actually rewires your brain. And I'll leave you with this question to really think about. Just imagine it for a second. The person who used to be able to ruin your day, now they just can't. You have the tools, you know the rules. Who will you be when you are truly the calm operator of your own emotional state? Because that person is waiting for you.